All right, hello guys, and welcome to this other live stream today. So, as usual, before market open, let's start with a little update on what we might have for today. So, as first of all, let me show you that I am still long, as you can see right here. I did put my stop loss below here. I am thinking of taking a little bit off of this position. I'm also long on BitGet. So I'm making about $400 here. As you can see, 260 closed, 172 that I have already taken. Sorry, that I still need to take around 170. And my stop loss on this trade is, I don't even remember. All right, I guess it's below this low. Let's see the 15 minutes. Below this low. I'm gonna actually raise it a bit more. Honestly, I did want to take profit last night at 89 and it actually never hit. We SFP'd this high, as you can see, and we front run my take profit level, at least on this account, because I wanted to do a little day trade. So I don't know, maybe we'll get it today. Maybe I can close this trade completely. There's only 0.3 Bitcoin left here, and I can just let this one run, which is the bigger one. But yeah, I did put the stop loss below the low because I would like for market open to just directly go to my target and then drop. That would be my optimal thing. But I am aware that we could do like yesterday. So this was yesterday. And at market open, we actually crashed, took the liquidity and reversed. So there is the possibility that we could, at market open, do something similar to yesterday, where we go get the low and then reverse. And then, yeah, hopefully we can get to that target that I was covering yesterday. Whereas you can see, I still have that scalp short area. I don't need to keep that. We can put this here. Because what do we have here? We have, let me make this a bit more clear. Come on. We have this daily level right on the weekly NPOC. We have the anchor VWAP coming up from this high, which now is a little bit too low for my liking. But then we do also have the 0.618 to 0.72 lining up perfectly in this area. So this is for me the place for a short trade. Once again, as I've explained, that would be the lower high that we put in for that continuation lower. That is what I'm waiting for. However, I am in the long because, as I always say, if we start to reclaim certain levels, such as here, then we can just let our long trade run for higher profits. So I hope that's pretty simple to understand. Then let's move on. So actually, let's do this. Let's set some alerts. I can remove these for market open, which is in about 10 minutes. As you can see already, some volatility is starting to come in. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna delete this. And I'm keeping this one just below these lows. I'll keep another one below these lows. Let me check again where I put the stop loss. Okay, that is wrong. I meant to put it here. But I will manually close this trade if I need to. I just want to give myself some space just in case, once again, we go and take this. I don't think this needs to be revisited since we already took it yesterday. So as you can see, we SFP'd this and then had the reversal. I wouldn't want a full reversal down here. But if there's weakness, I will close this early, just like I was talking about yesterday. Then we can check out the, look at that. That is some weakness on Bitcoin. But no point reversing here. Let me check. No, it wouldn't really make sense. By the way, look at that perfect retest of the point of control for the bounce off of that reclaim of the anchor VWAP. I actually did add a little bit here I didn't send it, but as you can see, I did add to my position right there, which was right on that point of control bounce. But yeah, let's see if we can get higher. And let's go to Pippin, because I did give a really nice trade on this, which I am in, as you can see right here. So I caught that short trade, right, where I'm making about $1,000. And now I went long, as you can see, where I am making about $370 to really help that account build back up. This was back down to 18.8 yesterday, I think. And because I did take a loss on Solana and on a Bitcoin long, but we are slowly building it back up above 20,000. And I think this Pippin trade, if it can play out, it will help us. So this trade, let's go over it again. This was very simple. I was showing you we had this harmonic pattern, but inverse harmonic pattern. And I was telling you that after catching that short, that this could have been that reversal. Why? Because we tapped. Actually, let me walk you through step by step, because this was also very interesting. And look at that pump now. Because here, some people were saying, what if we put in the low? What if we put in the low here? There was that market structure shift. And I said, honestly, I don't think so. I'm going to remain patient, because we had front run the value area low just below. And so for me, what I wanted to see was another touch down below. Wow, it's cool to see it pump like right as we speak. And so in fact, you can see now I'm making $600, and that account is now almost back to 20,000. So let me check, because we might have to take profit soon off of these highs. So here's what I'm going to do. Since my position is pretty big, I am going to take a 25% right now off of that trade. And I'm going to put the stop loss right below the low that we put, right? So basically this trade now, I have for $500 with $100 already taken. If I get stopped out, I only lose $100. But guess what? I have a big position that if this keeps running, it's just really good to have. So as you can see, this is where I bought. And yeah, I think this is already a really great trade. As you can see, that's 1, 2, 3. It's around 1 to 3 already, so I think it's good to take that 25%. And let's see if we can keep pumping. Maybe we got the exact low. So yeah, I did take some profit here on Pippin. I'm actually gonna write this in the Discord as well. Take profit 1 on Pippin long here. But however, that does not mean that I have closed my short trade. Okay, there you go. We had that big move up above. Oh, wow. That's a nice 10%. Look at that. Beautiful to see. Look at that. Just so, so beautiful. So, yeah. Very nice. So, yeah, let's go back to explaining this trade. Basically, I was looking for this point C. Here, people in the live, you can go back to my live stream from yesterday, and you can see that I was saying, no, I'm going to wait for this to take the low once again. And I actually bought my first position right here, right when we went below that low, because I was down to just go into a little bit of drawdown, have a larger stop loss, which is initially what I had. So I had a stop loss like to 27.9, something like that. I wanted to give myself some space, and I wanted to buy all this area. And as you can see from there, I mean, from probably my last buy was when I'm basically at the low. So from the low, we are now up 12%. So, you know, I like to call myself the king of Pippin, because I don't think I've had a losing trade on this, maybe once, but I've basically gotten every single high and low on this asset. I just don't have the trades, but go back and watch my live streams. Go into the Discord. If you look up Pippin, most of them I have. And by the way, that was actually kind of stupid to take profit right there. I should have honestly waited for this point of control. I guess in all the chaos, I didn't really think about it. But yeah, definitely better take profit 1 would have been this point of control lining up with the anchor VWAP. I'm going to still set an alert to that. Is that market open? Not yet. 5 minutes to market open. Let's check if we have some levels lining up with that point of control. Nothing there. I don't think we have anything on the weekly indeed. And nothing on the monthly. So So yeah, we're just gonna have to let this trade run. I would already consider this a win. You can already start trailing this if you wish. You can put your stop loss break even. But I would say this is a point where we really need to be aware. And of course, for the scalpers, if you see a bearish reaction, you want to take that scalp short, you're completely free to do that. I'm not going to do that. As again, I'm a swing trader. I rather do these bigger swings. But yeah, that's totally valid. So we're up 500, well, 600 on this long. We are up 800, 950 on the short, and we are up 300 on the Bitcoin long. Very nice to see. Let's see now this account. Okay, so we're almost back at 20,000, which is nice. And I mean, technically we are much higher because I did close. Actually, I'm gonna close this trade soon because I don't want to have too much exposure. So actually, I'm gonna do that now. I don't really care about taking the risk during. Actually, I'm gonna wait for New York Open and close the trade as soon as we start either pumping or dumping. If we start dumping straight away, I'll close it straight away. If we start pumping, I'm gonna wait for a little bit of a pump and then close it. But yeah, so that's nice to see. So you do gotta add another 400 from here into this account, so that's already 20,400. And I only transferred about 4,000 from this account, but this is actually up another 1,000. So technically, the challenge account is up to 21,000 from 2,000. And also, the other thing I wanted to say is that if you're wondering like, oh, why are you not trading everything on BitUnix, which is where we're doing the challenge from 2,000 to 20,000, is because sometimes if I get a nice entry, for example, right now on Pippin, right? I have this short. If I want a new short on Pippin, let's say I want to short this point of control, I don't want to ruin in terms of visual my entry, for example, that I have on this short, right? Like this short has entry at 39. It's more of like a visual thing, I guess, to not ruin my trade, because if I start adding to my position, my entry price is going to be much lower. And so I use different accounts to prevent that. So that's the explanation. But yeah, this is really nice to see. I hope we can keep pumping to that 34. I hope you're making money. I'm sure you are if you're in the Discord. And let's look at the chat. Remember, if you have any requests, any tokens, I will take a look. Can I ask you something regarding the NPOCs I see on the chart? Do you have an indicator to track them? Yes, I have Exo charts in order to track them. And I have also a template right here. No, it's not that one. I have these templates that help me track them. They are already made. It tells me where all the naked point of controls are going to be. These are not as accurate as Exo charts. Exo charts is a footprint application. And I mainly use that one. But I only give access to that. Also, I pay for the membership of Exo charts for 6 months for the people that buy the package. So there is like an extra cost for that, and usually only for my one-to-one students. And I pay 6 months for their Exo charts membership, which is $50 a month. And I also give them all the templates and a free call to set everything up. Well, free call. They're paying for the templates to get that set up. All right, so 1 minute into market open. We are already crashing a little bit. Let's keep an eye on Bitcoin here, because as I said, if we have a bearish reaction, I'm gonna close that that long trade on my BitGet account. Yeah, as I said, you can use these indicators on TradingView, but they're not accurate most of the times. So if you go and compare them to an actual platform such as ATAS or what's it called, Exo charts, they're gonna give you some levels that are not the same, and that can be a little bit of a problem. Also, there was a trade that I wanted to take on XMR. I think that never played out. It never got my entry. Came very close to it. Let's see. Yeah, so it seems like we're having that bounce. But I am going to stay patient because I do want to see this daily level being hit. I do want to see a little bit below 440 for this long to activate. So let's see what you guys want to look at. XRP is the first request. I'm just going to monitor the market open for the next minutes, and then we'll look at the other ones. Because market open just now. We can also see the stock market. It seems like all the volatility came actually an hour before. Sorry, 20 minutes before the market open. Let's see stock market, S&P. Still looking fine, to be honest. That 7,000 targets, that $7,000 target that I've covered many times has obviously been hit now. And honestly, I would say, let me put this on a line chart, perhaps it's better. You did get that bigger drop for that 4-hour market structure shift. So could it be that we're just looking for that retest to then go lower? I would say maybe it's a little too early to tell. Let me clean this up, by the way. Yeah, I would say it's a little bit too early to tell because we filled this gap. I feel like we should have just reversed there, if anything. I would say this looks okay for another, and look at that pip in take profit. That was actually pretty good. But yeah, I would say still higher. We are bouncing off of support right here on that anchor VWAP I had given you. We're above the old all-time high, so still nothing bearish, I would say. Especially after this recovery, I would still expect higher. So yeah, pretty simple for the stock market. All right, let's see if we can see that push up at least to this value area high, 88,600. And Q also looks fine. A little bit more of a range. Let's see what happens at range high. But also still on an uptrend, nothing bearish in my opinion. You got gold that yesterday actually had quite a nice crash and fully recovered it straight away. So we were actually trading here, and I would say I would never long at 5,100. You have that little 2% drop. Silver was very similar. Yeah, let's just look at the other coins that you guys are saying. Let me see my BitGet. Yeah, I'm just gonna close this, to be honest. I do think there's most likely a pump coming based on my gut feeling. But since I'm already exposed one Bitcoin on this account, I don't think there's the need to have that other position closed. I'm just gonna take that 400 as a win and be done with this trade. I'll just keep this very small just to track it, to see what happens. But there you go, $380 closed here. I'm gonna let this one run. And so yeah, I'm just gonna add 400 here eventually, and that will stay for the challenge account, because that was more of a intraday trade that I did send into the Discord, by the way. So yeah, let's see what happens. Alerts are set below these lows. Again, we could see a retest of 87,225, but I don't want to see this low being taken again, because this is done. As you can see, we had that SFP, no need to go back here. Same for this one, we had that SFP again. Optimally, we get that SFP right here, maybe onto here, hold the higher lows, and then have that reversal. If this is lost, I feel like we go for new lows, which once again, for whoever is new here, this is why I'm still keeping this short trade open on Bitcoin. Smaller, I'm more leaning towards a rise first, which is why I have one Bitcoin long here, and I only am keeping 0.3 short. But I will lean, I think, more bearish if we get that bearish reaction here. So this is where I'm gonna readjust my positioning. I'm gonna scale out of my long around 89.4, whatever it is. And that's when I'm gonna start getting more into shorts. So probably by this point, I'm gonna have like 0.5 long remaining with the take profit. And I'm gonna add maybe, I don't know, 0.75 or one Bitcoin short. And so that way I will have like, let's say one Bitcoin short against 0.5 long, and then if I get stopped out, it doesn't matter. I keep making money on the long. If this reverses, I make much more money on the short. So yes, my preference is actually for Bitcoin to keep falling towards 80,000. Okay, I think that's the most likely scenario. I just think first we can get that rise, which doesn't have to stop here. Obviously, it can go up to 91, 93, etc., etc. We gotta check different levels. I also do want to take a look at the CME, because we do have the gap fill, which is another reason why I'm still leaning a little bit more bullish locally. So right here, this is going to be that gap fill, right? As you can see, there is a gap. Let me take these off real quick, right? That gap, these tend to be filled, which adds onto the resistance that I am waiting for, around 89.3 to 89.6. So would be really nice to see that one more move up here, and then that reversal. And it is nice actually to have that crash at open usually. As you guys know, if you've been watching the lives, typically we do want to find the low. So first we want to see that price moving down at New York Open, which has been about 10 minutes. And then we want to see that nice low being put in, which we will be able to see, for example, here, right? This is still developing, but there's a new purple thing that needs to print here. And as you can see, the lows here are fine, which are the ones that I was speaking about, right? We have that excess, so this doesn't need to be revisited. This is fine as well, doesn't need to be revisited. These are low, these are poor right here. As you can see, there's no excess. These can be taken with that SFP onto this value area low. And then that's where I feel like we can see that low being put in, and then that reversal toward that gap up here. Once again, the highs are finished. No need to go back there. Everything has been cleaned. Let me just check something here. These are technically not good because they're so next to each other, but I'm gonna be fine with that for now. So yeah, let's see if maybe we can get that long trade actually, maybe with intraday long below these lows right here. That would be cool. We can try to trade something like this. Yeah, something like this to that new target. That could be a nice intraday. Of course, as usual, we have to wait and see what happens. But I am happy, actually, that was the right decision to close this trade fully, because that was the top for now, obviously. But where's my selling thing here? Nope, here. Yeah, so as you can see, that was actually a pretty good decision. And I am now losing on this one, obviously. But again, the plan is I kept in consideration that this could be the outcome. So to go get these lows and then go there. And I could add to this position. But actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new position on probably BitGet again, I guess. Or maybe I'll just add to this one since that would bring my entry down. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I can do it here. It's going to bring the entry down and it's going to be the same stop loss. So let's see. What is Pipping doing? Pipping still around that 32 cents. Okay, so now I can take a look at the chat because I am finished with this. Actually, sorry, one more thing before I look at the chat. We were finishing this here. So yeah, and then the resistance is going to be right here, right? So this is going to be the scalp short. Let's clean this up so I give you a much easier plan. So as we said, scalp short is going to be anywhere between the gap fill that we have here. We can consider this, yeah. Point of control, which is lining up with the midpoint, value area low. All of this is resistance. We can also add that anchor VWAP. As you can see, that's also lining up. And yeah, so the plan is basically to get into that scalp long trade right here. Right? Yeah, those are the lows that are poor. And trading it up to the gap fill, which once again, we have to wait for price action to see what happens here. And then we would have that move below, entry, move above, short, right? So that would be a long into short. And then you can be long and short at the same time. And whichever plays out, you let it run. I hope this is very clear. And the entry can be anywhere between here. I'm going to put it in the middle, just so that it's understood that it's an area. And then we can target much lower. Okay, so what I don't like is that we're losing this anchor VWAP. That's the only thing that it's kind of concerning. Okay, done. So let's see. XRP was the first request. And now look at that big rejection now on Pippin. Let's see if it can just hold. Maybe we caused that crash with all the people in my Discord that were taking profit. Okay, so XRP USDT.P. Okay, this was an old analysis. Let's get rid of all this and see what we have. So this daily is now tapped. All these levels are very old, except that weekly still seems to be still valid. So now we have daily, which seems to be front run right here. Yeah. Daily. Okay. And I don't know if I'll be able to look at all of them because I do have an appointment today. So I have about 20-30 minutes, but we'll try to be quick and see all of them. Okay. Oops. Daily up here. Daily up here. I accidentally added a new one there. This short trade is still valid in my opinion, but let's update everything actually. All right, that was a really nice short trade that I had taken back in the time. That's okay. Let's get rid of this. This is old. Okay, perfect. So we do have this big range. Look at that respect on this anchor VWAP. Very nice. This is more the local range. I'm sorry if you hear any noise. There are some people doing works in my house. Okay, so I would say for now, chances are that we go lower. We just lost the value area low, both the bigger range and this small range. So I would say new lows are likely, which is why it would have been nice to... Oh, I did actually give this, I remember, as a zone of resistance. I don't know why I didn't short that actually. That was perfect. Look at that respect on the daily. I'm sure even on the 4 hours, you're going to see some respect. On that point of control, wick, losing the anchor VWAP, that would have been a perfect short trade. Here's that alert on Bitcoin, by the way, so let's go back to it real quick. Let's see what happens now. But yeah, XRP, definitely, I think, new lows coming. I do think we're going to take these lows soon. Let's see if we can SFP. If you want to be aggressive, as usual, you can just take that long trade straight away. That is not how I trade. So I'm going to be a little bit more patient on that. But I think this is coming soon. So yeah, XRP, let's go back to it real quick. But honestly, definitely new lows, and I would look for a short trade. So it would be nice to actually leave this here, get that pump. Maybe something intraday would be like to wait for a rise above $2, taking out $2, backtest the value area high, even though it's already been backtested right there. If we let some time pass, perhaps in the next week, and then we can go for new lows, something like that. That could be valid. Not interested myself in this short trade, but that's what I would see, to be honest. Unless we giga pump right now and we get to that 2.1, I would say this would be the short trade. But again, I'm not so interested in that, to be honest. And for a long, I just think price action has been ruined too much by this wick. If this wick was in here, I would say this is a clear range high to range low, and I would try to possibly here, but I would say probably this. This could play out. Sometimes I do like to ignore these wicks. I guess you could consider, for example, this short trade into that range low if you ignore this wick, and then you can see if you get a reaction, if that wick, if this is still respected and is not considered tapped. That will depend on the market, not me. And then if we get that fake out of range low, then we can look for that rotation back above. But again, the fact that we lost this value area low is quite bearish. So I do have a bearish outlook, but if we get the trigger for that long trade, this can be interesting. So I will set an alert at range low here. So yeah, that's this is the more local trade, and this would be the swing trade, right? So like this. And then the short trade, if we get that pump first, I would say is gonna be still either once again above here, this point of control, and maybe if it takes some time, that anchor VWAP will also line up, or this weekly level. At that point, I really wouldn't be interested in trading anything else. And also keep in mind this weekly level only if this anchor VWAP stays lined up there, which it won't if it takes too much time, which it will take time because I don't think we'll find XRP at 2.6 tomorrow, right? So I hope that makes sense. Then power. Oh, I do also want to show you River real quick, because we had given a target of here of 93. Wait, hold on. Okay, so I might have fucked something up. No. So I did give this short, which never triggered, which is a shame because it would have been very nice. As you can see, we had that big dump. But I do think it's still possible that we make a new high and then get that fake out. So I will set an alert once again, and that will be the new short trade on River. Am I interested in a long? I definitely think it's the one that can pay off the most, but it's just so hard to find a low on here that I'm not interested in that. But yeah, keep in mind the short. Power. Power, let's see. No, this is too new. I'm not interested in looking at this. There's not enough data, and it's just been downtrending. Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see the retest of this anchor VWAP. I would say maybe it's more likely that you go higher, but yeah, definitely not. It seems that it gets actually respected quite well though by technical analysis, which is good. Let's see. But yeah, no, there's just not enough data for me to do much, so can't look at that one. I short Bitcoin at 88k, SL at 89k, and TP at 86k.3. Will I win that? Only time will tell. I have a trade lining up, maybe at where was it? 87.3, I think. So do we go for these lows? It's possible. These lows that you're talking about, I think it's possible, but I wouldn't keep that as a final target. I would already take profit one here, to be honest, well, below these lows, because these lows don't necessarily need to be taken. So that's the answer for that. Could you give an eye at Tau Tau, right here. Tau missed the short trade by very little. Once again, pisses me off. This has been lost. No strength whatsoever. Very, very weak. And I would probably say new lows are coming. Unless we can unless we can hold this daily. Let me just get rid of this real quick. Yeah, unless we can hold this or this. I think it's likely that we make new lows. Would it be nice to see like an SFP of this? If you look at it like a big wick, wow. I think it's unlikely we hold lows here. But you could look for like an intraday entry like this. Maybe if you SFP onto that daily level, something like that. You wait for candle close and then you take that long. But honestly, not much to see here. Yeah, nothing crazy, unfortunately. It's a shame because Tau is it's a pretty nice project. Cardano, I think new lows as well. And unfortunately, when there's price action like this is just so trash to trade. Like you just gotta try to find that pump that can get you into a short trade. But they're just so high, the levels. So yeah, kind of sucks to have this price action. Daily, weekly. No, I would say new lows, nothing to do, unfortunately. You gotta look more at tokens that like give you some price action like this, right? So something like Hype is already better. Fake out of the low, big pump. Did it take? And look, this is what I've been speaking about for a while. I always said like, look out for the fill of the wick. Look at that on Hype. You fill the wick, massive pump. That was the long trade. And honestly, after filling this wick, I don't even know if I would look for a short trade because there's not really the reason to go down anymore. Would have been nice to take out 20, which it didn't do. But yeah, this is actually a good possible reversal. So I'm gonna let this just play out for a bit. I'm not gonna take trades on this. I could check for a potential short. I'm gonna clean everything up actually. Let's see. This has been a big range. So potentially we could be looking at daily, no, weekly, daily, nothing. Okay, that's interesting. That weekly level right here. Yeah, we could potentially look for a back test of that value area low. If we don't get the acceptance back inside, then we can look for that reversal. If we do get the acceptance, then the next target is going to become $38. Here we do have that change in market structure. If you want to look more for like a continuation trade, even though I don't really like this price action that goes up so fast, is going to be back below at 24. But probably what is going to happen here is we flip this, unless we take the liquidity here and go back below the value area high, then you do actually have an activation for a short trade, which could be interesting. So I'm gonna actually set an alert here and an alert below here. And I'm only gonna take the short trade if we take first the liquidity, move back below, back test, and then I'll take the short to trade this back down to $23. But of course this it's not gonna look great actually in terms of risk to reward. So I don't think this is a trade I would take. The only way you could take it is if this SFPs close back below, then you can have one that makes more sense, but the chances are that you get stopped out. So yeah, this is not valid to be honest because of the risk to reward. But if we SFP this high, then it's a little bit more valid. Do I think it's gonna SFP in reverse? Probably not, considering we have all these series of highs. I do think it's more likely that we move up towards 32. So if anything, you could try and look for an entry here to try and take it up to that weekly level. But it's kind of hard with this big rise. So personally, I wouldn't really touch it and I would wait for $32. I would think that's probably the best option. My Fibonacci settings, it's these. You can take a screenshot. Hype chart, we pumped so much. River, covered it. What do you think about the short at 17 real? We covered that. BRT, I did a couple of pulls of the 1618 extension of River, and if you place the pivots at 1.6, we have hit. I do the pulls based on Elliott waves. River, no, I'm not taking any longs. Pump, I'll look at pump last thing, and then I really gotta run. Pump USDT.P. This is not on Bybit. Same thing, I would say, if you guys want to try and catch some pretty crazy long trades on altcoins, just check out many altcoins if you have time to waste a little bit. Like not time to waste, but if you have some free time, just set all the alerts at the wick fills and wait for all these coins to fill the wick and try to look for that long trade if there is a bullish reaction here. You do this on 100 pairs. I feel like if 100 tokens fill the wick, I feel like 65% of them, or maybe 50, let's assume 50% of them reverse. What the fuck? Let's assume 50% of them reverse, 50% of them don't reverse. I feel like you can still get like a 1 to 4 with a nice pump. You can make some money. That's a little trick. But yeah, as you can see, like that's what happened on hype. You filled the wick and you had a really big pump. This came very close to it. There's still some space. And I mean, this token's name is literally pump. So if this doesn't pump, I don't know what will. Let's see from here. You probably do have a little bit of a range trading setup. This could be an interesting short. Just grabbing the liquidity above. Usual range trading. We do have that daily up here. No. The only thing is value area is a little bit higher. So I mean, other tools say higher, but if you do get that setup on the anchor VWAP, you can attempt that short trade here. Taking the liquidity here, tapping this daily level, move back below, and then you have that short trade off of the fake out. right? Something like that, to then go and fill the wick, and then you have a short into the long. All right, guys, I really gotta run, so I can't look at anything more, but I will see you either tomorrow or after tomorrow for another live stream. So sorry to run away like this, but I have an appointment. So see you tomorrow or after tomorrow.